Welcome back to another edition of Real Spiritual Talk Radio. I'm your host, Lamont Gates, once again bringing you the world of faith, metaphysicality, and spirituality. Today, my guest had a profound near-death experience that gave him a new perspective on his own life. Joining me today, all the way from Calgary, Alberta, Canada, is near-death experiencer Malcolm K Nair. Malcolm, welcome to Real Spiritual Talk Radio.
Thank you, Lamont. I appreciate you having me as a guest on your channel.
Absolutely, no problem at all. Now, Malcolm, before we get into your near-death experience, I like to talk with my guests about any previous or prior religious belief systems, if applicable, that they may have had before having their near-death experience.
Yeah, I had basic understanding of, the depths of Hinduism, Christianity, being Roman Catholic with my stepmom. I was deep in the culture of African roots because my dad was married to an African for 19 years. So I grew up watching The Roots, and I grew up watching a lot of stuff around that culture. I've been to churches, different types of churches, gospel churches, things like that. And I have family members that are Muslim also. My dad was Hindu. My mom, she went back and forth, but she was born Christian. Her mom was Christian. My stepmom was Roman Catholic. And yeah, so that's a little bit of my my background in religion, but I also was Jehovah Witness for a few years. My mom followed that faith as well. So I would go to the big stadiums every, I think it was Tuesday or Monday. And we were faithful practicing that. But deep inside of me, with all of these religions and cultures, I I always had this other whisper, this other calling inside me speaking, like, my truth. It wasn't the truth. I didn't know what was the truth, um, but I knew that voice, whenever I asked a question, would talk to me. Um, when I said, "Where are you?" or "Who? What am I supposed to be? What am I following?" It always connected me to just follow the truth or something. I always had this other inner voice when things went wrong or anything. I always was recalled back to um, another divine connection. I always had this intuitive speaking ability with another connection my entire life.
So it sounds like you had a very diverse background when it came to religion, but deep down inside, as you said, there was some sort of spiritual yearning and calling, and I guess that can take us into your near-death experience. But why don't you first tell us exactly what it was that triggered your near-death experience to occur?
um, Sometimes I used to question my life a lot. I used to question, is this worth it? Am I worth it? Am I worth living? What's going to happen? I always had worries about death. And I remember growing up, I used to have nightmares and stuff like that, and a lot of scarcity, a lot of fear, and a lot of doubt. So that mindset and that subconscious programming um, has a lot to do with the direction that we're going in life and what can happen and the outcomes, right? So we got to be very aware and cautious of our conscious and subconscious thoughts. But at that time, I wasn't. I was just talking like self-sabotaging ways and scarcity ways and fear-based, and I don't care. I used to always say, I don't care. Like I would get a thought, like maybe a whisper, do you think we should do that? Aren't you drinking too much? Or I don't care. I would say, I don't care. I would talk back to it. I don't care. I would talk back to my spirit. At that time, I didn't know it was a spirit. I just thought it was my own mind, trying ego, and it is part of it. I talk about, the ego spirit, ego mind, but at that time I had no clue that I was shutting down a big part of my spirit. I think just having that mindset growing up led me to my near death experience because when I was at work, I just had the mindset of what are we going to do after work? Are we going to drink? Are we going to party? Are we going to hang out? The solution was always, what's next? It was never enough. I wasn't thinking about life. I wasn't thinking about structure and discipline and the future. I wasn't even thinking about the present moment. It was hard for me to be mindful and present. I was always hyperactive, like I needed some stimulants. And so if I didn't have that idea of what's going to happen next, I was really bored. And so that night, Friday night, I'm like, I'm going to call a girl. Which girl? I planned it out. I called. Uh, I said, and when I called that person, I already had the next steps. I want to be at a house. I want it to be like a party. I want there to be like this many guys, but this many girls, X amount of girls. There should be like 4 or 5 times more than this. There should be alcohol. I shouldn't be bored. There should be this. There should be that. It was very, I was a very negative like that. Like I just was that type of guy. And I had a very addictive personality. And so I go to the house and behold, it was all there. Everything was there, exactly what I expected, but it was still not enough. I needed more of something. I either more substance, more drinks, more fun, more music, more partying, more girls, more excitement. People were boring. They were sleeping, falling asleep. I was like more of the life of the party type of guy, getting myself involved at that time, extroverted. And as I felt it wasn't good enough, I was getting bored and I wanted to leave. Although I had all the substances that you could ask for, I was taking, at that time, cocaine, and I had some mushrooms on me, and I had been drinking a lot of alcohol that night and smoking cigarettes and smoking marijuana. And I don't know, I didn't know at the time. I knew when you mix things, I understood because my body was very tolerant to mixing things and handling and being strong, but I didn't know how mushroom and cocaine and marijuana and alcohol mixed together. So as I'm taking grams and grams of mushrooms and drinking like 20 beers and different alcohols and smoking weed and just getting it kicked in, and then doing the cocaine, keeping it balanced, and then the mushrooms, you're having like a high but a mellow, but it was it was like that. And then I end up taking my keys and saying, I just want to go. I just want to leave. And I just go into my SUV. I was driving a 1997 Nissan Pathfinder. And I get into it was an SUV, and I get into it standard. It was standard. And I go and I get into the car and I start it and I back out of the driveway, and they say, Hey, Malcolm, are you sure? Don't leave, just stay. You don't have to go. Like, it's dangerous. Don't have to go. I said, I'm good. I'm fine. And don't worry about me. I'm fine. And I was just thinking of the next move, And I text, I'm like, I'm on my way. Where are you? I think I remember where you live. I'll pull up. And I don't know where this person lives at that time. So I'm laughing at myself because that was me. That's the kind of guy that I was. You know. Anyways, so I go and I'm getting lost and I don't remember where this person lives. And I found myself forgetful. Like I was going in a circle around not the block, but the whole quadrant of that city. Like if it was the northeast or northwest or whatever, I was like just finding myself going around and then going in and then around. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I just pulled a whole circle. What's going on? So I just said, forget about it. And I just went hard on the gas and I started driving, not cruising, but speeding around, just going fast and driving on the roads and the highway and then in the main rural areas. And I was in like school zones and neighborhoods, but it was 2, 3 in the morning. So there was no one on the walking, no one around. It was kind of cold. It was chilly, and luckily, and little bit of cars. Maybe 1 to 3 cars every now and then you would see as I'm speeding. And as I'm speeding, I just see flashing lights flash by. All the lights are going so fast because that's how fast I was going. I was going well over 120 miles an hour. I kept accelerating. I think I just kept wanting to kill myself or something, but I was just driving so fast and I sideswiped right a couple of houses before the house that I hit, and I go up the lawn at 100 miles an hour, and I hit the house at the foundation, the corner of the house, and I ejected head first out of my vehicle, and I instantaneously um, started to notice my awareness observing my body. And at that moment, everything changed for me. It was like I became clairvoyant at that moment, instantaneously, no pain at that time. It was like how your spirit leaves your body when you watch Doctor Strange on Marvel, how it just kind of leaves like just like that. That's exactly how it was as a conscious feeling and a thought at first. It wasn't so physical and metaphysical. It wasn't like a spirit just leaving like that. It was just more of my consciousness just leaving and then observing everything right there and then. It didn't go anywhere. It just was right there present. And it it looked and it was worried because my body was done. So my spirit was watching them revive me, watching them, observing them, trying to revive me, trying to get, take care of me because I lost too much blood. They said that he's losing too much blood. I had glass shards of glass stuck in my head, in my face, in the back of my neck. I was covered with glass and my arms, all over my arms and stuff. Um, and so they said he's losing too much blood, his oxygen, all this, and we're losing him. And they start driving me to the hospital and rushing me to the hospital. And I'm just, hovering and just observing and watching and going above above the ambulance, and I'm there. I'm not even like flying. I'm just present, and I can see everything, and I'm watching everything occur. And I end up going to the hospital, and I I'm following my body. I'm following the hospital attendees, all of the staff rush me. The nurses, they're starting to pull up my file. They're starting to write everything down and take me in for surgery and check on me. Just going to specialists. Obviously, they knew I had severe brain trauma. I had brain damage, bleeding to my brain. I had severe uh, severe damage. They said brain damage, and they said I had bleeding my brain, and I had a spinal cord injuries and brachial plexus, and I had 75% of nerve damage. They did all the tests as well afterwards. Um, they did my blood test. They said I was 10 times over the blood alcohol limit, that this, you're not supposed to survive from this and the car accident. And with the amount of blood that I lost, and that I may never walk the same, talk the same, because I was paralyzed on the whole right side of my body. I had 75% of muscle damage and nerve damage and tearage all across my body. I woke up with a lisp and everything, but at the same time, I was able to listen into conversations. I can hear people's thoughts, and I can hear them as if they're conversations. So it's like conversations in my head, but I didn't realize that I'm hearing their thoughts, feelings, and emotions. So even now, like if someone's texting me, I can hear their conversation in their head, and then I will know exactly what they want to talk to me about. And then I'll receive the text message, and I'll be like, that's exactly what I knew they were going to tell me. They were going to text me. It was word for word exactly what I was reading into their minds. So things like that happened instantaneously when I was out of my body. When I had that experience, I could pick up on conversations. Like the lady and the man, I couldn't see them because but we see through our spirit. Remember, our consciousness through our brain, like we see through our consciousness, we don't see through our eyes. So I see their faces. I remember everything. I even had heard their thoughts, their deepest thoughts and anxieties and fears, and what they were whispering to themselves or to each other. And those kind of things, the nurses, what they were thinking of me before coming and seeing me, the specialists, the surgeons, the doctors, it's like I know more about them that they know about themselves. And that's what it feels like to do what I do. And that that was kind of interesting to me, because it was telling me that you can it was telling me things, but before that, I was having a lot of contemplation, like what am I going to do with this now? What do I do? What's this meant for? What should I do now? Do I go back into my body? Do I leave? Do I go somewhere? Do I fly around? Do I go check out different areas? Do I go visit people? What do I do? What's going on? No control. I didn't know what to do, so I just stayed close to my body. And so as I go to the hospital, stay close to my body, I start noticing time and space kind of, happening at quickly, and just fast forward and rewind. Like it was happening and then not happening, because the things that I thought were happening were in different spaces. It was things that could have happened later, that like I was already realizing who my mom had to call, and she was thinking, and then I would go to who she wanted to call. They were driving, and then like things like, just those realizations that didn't happen yet, but I was already there. I was already in times and moments before they actually occurred. I was already in those time spaces. wherever people were, so if people were eating in the waiting rooms, I was there. I saw them. I could go spy and watch them eat. If I had a bunch of uncles and my dad huddling up and being men and discussing what's going on and whatever their things are, I was there. When all the aunties and moms were in a section, I just kind of knew their feelings and thoughts. I was everywhere. I was even at the with the surgeons. I was going close to my body, just checking out what's going on, and then them like gasping, like, "Oh my God, poor guy," or "What the hell are we gonna do?" Like, okay, let's just give it some time, figure it out. Let's wait for the swelling to go down, then we'll know. And I'm like, "What swelling?" I just kept saying, "What swelling? It's gonna go away." My spirit kept telling me, "What collapsed lung? What collapsed lung?" They said my body had a collapsed lung. My spirit said, what collapsed lung? My body had bleeding in the brain, and my spirit's like, "What bleeding in the brain?" Or what brain damage? What brain damage? You're talking clearly now. You can hear, think as a spirit. So what are they talking about, Malcolm? What are they talking about? Remember, you are powerful. You can heal yourself now. You're healing. Don't worry what they say, what they think. They told me that, some nurses would come in and say, "You're crazy. What are you talking about? Sit down, lay down. You can't move. You got blood clots." And some nurses would tell me, "It's okay. We've heard this, but we just keep our mouths shut. We don't say nothing about this. But we know things like this, or we've heard stories. So you're not crazy. Don't worry. We've heard it before, but at the same time, we've never seen this one like yours. You just hit a house. You're crushed. So much going on with you, and you're already telling us you're going to walk. You're already telling us you're healing. Like, nobody talks like this in 3 days. Malcolm, so my bones, I healed my lungs don't take a day to recover. I exploded my lung, it collapsed, and I healed my lung in 1 day, less than a day. My bones broke, and I started healing them in less than 3 days. I started fusing my bones together in 3 days, less than 3 days. I started to heal my brain, and I started to heal my body, and I started feeling and untwining my nerves and my muscle tearage and my damage and my nerve damage. I started to untwine it and feel it untwining back within 3 to 6 days. They freaking discharged me out of the hospital because I was healing myself, and they're like, "We need these beds for other people who are still sick. Since you're healing yourself, and since you're already trying to walk, then we can discharge you to Care West facilities, and the rehabilitation center will just discharge you. They'll be ready to pick you up in a day." So on the 6th day of being hospitalized and having life support, I was on life support, unconscious, for 2.5, 3 days. And then as I was healing, waking up, I was already trying to walk out of the hospital. So those kind of things, but if we backtrack a little bit to my mom unplugging me while I was on life support, that's when the nurses told the doctors that he's responding. My mom was flabbergasted, and so they said, "He's responding. You guys have to make a decision to unplug him now." So they decided, and as my mom was, it might have taken a few hours, whatever. But as my mom decided to unplug me, as she's doing that, right at that moment, my spirit left the hospital, and I started to leave. And that's when I knew that it was meant to be something, because the whole time I didn't know what I was meant to do. But until then, that's when my spirit finally realized what I was supposed to do. And I was supposed to go somewhere, and I was supposed to leave to a different realm. And I didn't realize it until my mom unplugged me. So I left, and I hovered out of the hospital, out of the room. I witnessed the hospital, the sky, the clouds, and I kept going further and further and further till I could see everything all around. And I enter a vortex, and I get sucked into it. and I go faster and faster and faster. It's like the speed of light, and it's not stopping, and you're going and you don't know where you're going, but it's at the same time feels so fast, but it feels slow at the same time, but you know you're going so fast, but it's slow because you're waiting, but it's going so fast, but you're waiting. And I'm like worried, and I'm going through the all the emotions and feelings that we as physical beings here feel, but I was feeling it as a spirit of of worry. I was going through stress, anxiety. I was going through detachment, surrender. I was going through emptiness. I was wondering, like, do I be scared? Am I gonna be fearful right now? Do I be in doubt? What's gonna happen? What if? What's this empty space? What's this darkness? What's this blackness? Am I gonna be in the black, in the void? Is it gonna go to hell? What's gonna happen to me? That's all our soul. That's all our spirit. All these thoughts and feelings we have, our spirits have too. So my spirit was thinking all this and feeling all this. And me as a spirit had to surrender and realize, hey, look, you've been controlling and attached so much in that body. Just detach and surrender as a spirit and trust. Trust in God, trust in source, trust in this emptiness, trust in the unknown, and trust in the void, trust in that space of the unknown and the fear, right? And let it go. And when I did it. And that's when everything kind of relaxed, and I saw the light, and it went white, and I saw the light, and the light opened up for me, and I was embraced. So through the darkness is where the light comes. It's not light to dark. It's through the darkness you find the light. And through the darkness, I found the light. And I was able to go, and I was welcomed, and I heard all the voices, all the angelic divine beings gasping and whispering, and he's here, he's finally here, he came, he showed up, he's back, we missed him, and oh my God, and let's, welcome him. It's like excitement, and I'm like, what's going on here? They're waiting for me. Who am I? What am I? Who am I, right? And so I go up there, and I show up, and I'm granted in, and I'm welcomed with acceptance and love and compassion and forgiveness and unconditional love. And I'm not judged, but I'm shown. I'm shown everything, and I can see everything, but I'm welcomed, and I'm honored. I'm being honored, and embraced and respected. And I never felt that feeling before in my entire life. I've never felt a feeling of that type of forgiveness and love and unconditional acceptance, and no judgment, no prosecution, no uh, condemning, no accusations. No, look at what you did. Look at what you left behind. Look at how you treated your mother, your father. Look at what you did as a kid. Look at what you did to your sister, your son. Look at none of that. But that was all still on my mind because I did it. It was my judgment day. I judged my life, and I had the opportunity to view and review my life review, and to watch and see every moment. Just like as I was coming up that vortex, and before, I was able to see thoughts and visions of feelings and emotions of everything, contemplation. The whole time going up that vortex, I was doing the same thing. But even up there, I was granted to not granted to see my life review, but I was able to consciously decide and choose to go back because I was granted to be welcomed. And so I said no to God. There was a huge figure, and God is whatever, I mean, how we associated our life, I guess. is how we're going to associate death, So for me, I saw angels, I saw white, I saw clouds, and I saw the things that people, naysayers, would say, oh, up on a cloud. That's what I saw. I saw it was all white, and I saw them angelic, translucent beings, angelic, divine beings, and I seen them all. And I also saw a huge man head, like a huge, over 100-foot head, big, lift up his head and ask me, "What do you want to do, my son? What do you want to do? And what are you gonna do?" And then I knew he was like the father figure. And I said, um, you know, in my thoughts, I looked, I didn't really have to speak. It was just all there. And he knew. And I just kind of turned around and looked at my life and all the instances and everything that I forgot as a human that I did to everybody, all the things that we should be noticing and contemplating and paying attention to, and facing our fraudulence in the eyes, all our faults, all our mistakes, all our everything that we do, that humans say, oh, it's just don't worry about it, it's just a mistake, and forgive, love, love, love. My spirit looked at that and said, no, I can't, just because I'm all love, love, love up here in this realm. It probably wasn't the other realms that we can go to, but it was just that realm to decide. And I was given a choice, and I chose to not go out like that. And I chose to come back into my body, not knowing if I was crippled, I was paralyzed, or I was going to be a vegetable, or how long it was going to take to heal, and how hard it was going to be to forgive, and how hard it was going to be to change my narcissist behaviors, my tendencies, my criminal record, my going to jail, me being abusive, me not knowing how to be a father, me not knowing how to love, me not knowing how to communicate, me not knowing how to forgive. I wasn't told, you're going to go back and to the same thing. I just looked at everything and said, I'm going to go back, and I can't leave that. I have to go back and figure that out. And he said, are you sure? And I said, yes, I'm sure. And right there and then, same way I came up, I left, and back through the dark, the white to the dark, and I went back here, and I shake my head because, no matter what, to be living a divine spiritual being life, in this fast-paced world with children and your partners and whatever you go through in life, and the storms and the weathers and the cycles and patterns and routines and rituals and everything, consistency, I came back to a crippled body at that time. And instead of waking up humbly and remembering being respectful and gracious and harmony and blissful and joy and love, I was negative, and I negated a lot. And my journey started all over again, back from who I was to who I was again. And I had to go and live life again, and learn how to heal, learn how I was doing it, figure it out, so then I can sustain it, so then I can be it. I had to learn how to break patterns and cycles and karmas. I had to learn how to get over aggression and rage and anger and blackouts and drinking and driving and smoking and this and crack and cocaine and everything. And being disrespectful to my father, my mother, my sisters, everything. And I'm telling you, the nightmarish person that I still was, and I was even more, because I wanted to take everything, every family member and every culture and religion and status quo and everything and society wanted to brush under the carpet and do onto us. I wanted to do onto them. And as a spirit, who does that? Who wants to do that? If you're falling, if you're trying to be a good person, why should we condemn and prosecute when God didn't do that to me? Who was I to do that to people? Right. So I became that. I became worse. But when everything cleared, my path cleared, I was able to think by myself without anybody around me, nobody to help me, nobody to lift me up, nobody to take care of me. I went through my recovery journey by myself. I I healed by myself. I got the nurses by myself. I got picked up to go to the hospital appointments all by myself. Not even my mother, my sister, my father, nobody came and picked me up and helped me and did anything for me. So I did it all by myself. And, I just, you know, it is what it is. And so, yeah, that's a little bit
Yeah,
right there.
that's definitely an earful. Very, very powerful and profound near-death experience and after effects that you came back with. Now, I just want to go back just for clarity. I have a few follow-up questions, and then we can move on from there. So it sounds like this whole thing started, the car accident that is, after you had a strong concoction of drugs. Then you had what can be commonly described as an out of body experience where you felt absolutely no pain. I wanted to ask you at this moment, you talked about your consciousness just separating. Was your consciousness heightened at this point in time?
Super conscious and heightened. I had the ability to locate, pinpoint.
Yeah, and speaking of reading minds, that's exactly the ability you had when you were out of your body. You were able to pre-see events before they even occurred. You talked about text messages that were coming in before they even came in. You were able to know this was going to happen while you were still out of your body. And then you said something interesting by the time you got into the hospital. You talked about how damaged you were, but you said that the nurses knew about near-death experiences, but decided to stay quiet, right? I guess for fear of their own professional rejection.
Yes.
Um, it sounds like, though, while you were in the hospital, you talked about your mother unplugging you from life support. So it sounds like at that moment, you went into what's can be described as a second near death experience because you said you left your physical body and then you went outside of the hospital all the way up into the atmosphere, possibly
Yes.
possibly off the planet into a dark vortex and
Yes.
ultimately into light where you saw all of these
Yes. The
spiritual
light realm. Yeah.
beings, and you even talked about seeing uh God himself and feeling embraced, no judgment, unconditional love. And then you were shown your life review. You were shown all of the things you did and perhaps why you did it and how you made other people feel. Usually, when near death experiencers talk about a life review, they talk about feeling the emotion 10 times or 1,000 times more than when they were actually living it. You said that God lifted his head. He was hundreds of feet tall and said to you, "What do you want, my son?" In other words, giving you the choice to come back. And
Yes.
ultimately, you chose to come back. And that's when the healing process started. You ultimately healed yourself, as you said. And you talked about after effects just now, the ability to read minds, precognition. I'm assuming you have a lack of fear of death now. You had to go through darkness to come back into the light, right? Here on earth after returning. And ultimately, I think you've even started your own therapeutic practice. You want to talk to us a little bit about that?
Now I do help people and, all walks of life from all around the world. And they come to me, from watching beautiful YouTube channels like this and watching my interviews. And, they feel compelled or called uh, to get some guidance and teachings and help and discipline and to learn. So that's what I do now. And people can find that on my website at www.guidedintelligence.ca. I do have a self-help personal growth book it's a children's book, but it's great for adults. A lot of my clients, a lot of adults actually buy it. It's called Arnav's Affirmations, and it's on Amazon. And then, I have courses, curriculums, and things like that, and consultation life reviews I'll do with you and before deciding that we're the right fit, before you invest to move forward and to dedicate yourself to work with me. So that's what I do now.
Yes, it sounds like you came back with a wealth of information, a wealth of knowledge, and a purpose and a meaning. And it looks like you want to share that meaning and purpose with others. Well, Malcolm, I want to thank you for coming on Real Spiritual Talk Radio and sharing with us your absolutely fascinating account.
Thank you. You're welcome. I appreciate it.
Ladies and gentlemen, Malcolm K. Nair.